great show for us today, all about cybersecurity and 91 DIVOC, which if you spell that backwards, you've got the right thing there. Isn't that, which everybody could see, an asymmetric warfare that's on the nation to black swan the nation? Yes? And how do you and I live with any discernment about this? Isn't it a crime that you can see a crime but you don't report it? Yeah. Look, there's a monopoly on where DIVOC is. If you look at that, it's really a black swan of the nation, and it's spent all the resources quite a bit. And today, of course, like what's owed in interest, crazy, doesn't, give anything toward the principal. So it's if you really don't use Article 3 or 4 courts, don't you think that everybody's doomed? Because that's the process. That's you and I sitting above the corporation. So if a flight, for instance, just got lost, nobody knows where it went, and it lands at a base in the Pacific, it has a picture that's taken by a bloke that was an insider where the picture was. It's got its GPS coordinate of the base, and then suddenly that just disappeared from evidence. This is what you've got going on, yeah? So how does anybody have proper cybersecurity where you've got a monopoly running that and it's not even in the nation? Gee, you've got a serious condition here, serious cybersecurity breach, because nobody gave any permission for anybody to merge ledgers with a corporation that's an enemy. And you're going to say that from all the conditions that's gone on, that information isn't just present where things are. And how are these fusion centres privately run and set up to gather millions worth of information? And isn't that what happened? The same companies, didn't they use those companies to train how to round up all the Uyghurs in Western China and put them into detention centres and re-education centres? Yes, they did. It was used against we the people. You're going to say that doesn't exist? No one ever gave permission to give support to any terrible act where the sharing was and is of our private ledger with an enemy corporation. And let's all of that be sabotaged by one national corpse creating a backdoor control, also espionage in its own technology. Isn't all to evade the public and apparent US restrictions on chips and things, leading to a broader suspicion that the supply chain security and state-sponsored access through companies could have denied and directed things back doors instead? That's what you see having gone on. Isn't like if you go back into the past and you look at the killing fields in Cambodia from 1975 to 1979, was Pol Pot protected afterward for some years? Is the Cambodian genocide 1975 to 79 not where you've got the Khmer Rouge killing approximately a couple million people over those years? Is the academic obfuscation of that, of getting proper information, was that not swayed by the populace by nothing to look here? Meanwhile, it wasn't a proper focus. If you look at the press and purposeful misdirect to actual threats where your life was, so there was an academic denial, a standard, total, an academic view among the Western scholars at the time portraying the Khmer Rouge as an artificial turf, really, not a genuine grassroots movement whatsoever. And one bank bankrolling both sides, and one paid up for a purposeful sabotage, yes, of common law and the people. And isn't that changed any? But honest to God, it's just got worse. I mean, it's a real grassroots legitimate movement that's against what's signed out like builders in Melbourne, for instance, and other places that had to take the shot if they were going to get paid. Look, the backstory where any simple peasant is, where a revolution is, you've got authentic anti-communistic antism, and it's the day that's like that. Don't you think that that's the same as in the past? What's happened? Anything changed? No, it's only got worse. Looking at anti-colonial movement leading to an active ignorance and a downplaying of evidence of all of those mass killings that went on from 1975 to 1979. Is that the effect of misinformation? Are you going to say that that's not so? Where open sourceable it is, that definite misinformation and no transparency was under that monopoly of the terrain and the sophistication of things. Look, cybersecurity today and securities located combat ants, yes, in Yuga and rounded them all up and used that technology. So, you know, it was used there and now it's come here. You've got the rights removed. You've got why was there not any work-wise, any rage about? Why wasn't the money followed as it would have been and should be? And who gave what to who, and what was behind the scene, actually, where banking is, yes? So if you're blurring lines and there's no clarity, that you've got ephemeral content, meaning just something that's just given to you but not anybody else, it's a cyber warfare, isn't it, where that's going on? And you don't get the truth but lies and told you, and isn't that the same as all the school shootings and things, a knee on the neck, yes? How can that be in a couple countries, couple nations, the same thing, knee on the neck when that happened? And isn't a cybercrime a monopoly that's subtle, but clearly a polarization where information is being given that the media is monopolized? And isn't the public very wary that a scamdemic has gone on where you've got the DIVOC, the 91 DIVOC? And isn't that CB Cower, a criminal banking cartel of a one world order as an idea that's just been going on, that is a bias and stopping all trust just to gaslight, victims, and not to prove any clarity or overstepping like Texas oversteppers, and just to have no transparency and to fudge statistic. You're not going to say that statistics were not fudged. Lots of evidence shows that, and CB Cower's best interest gets served, but not yours and mine. So normalising the devil's behaviour and finally locking up and chased out by horses, isn't that what happened? Where people were, against the 91 DIVOC. You've got Asian people with masks and Africans eating monkeys' flesh and all sorts of distraction given you where your feeds are, and sensationalised language like promoting fear and political polarisation. It's just really kind of, don't you think that we've got studies that suggest this? You've got the US media pushed, and it's a pro-social behaviour, more highlighting partisan types of divide, and reporting on mandate and treatment reflect a broader societal division, leading to mistrust. Don't you think that most people could, after this mistrust, it's all the impacting public perception and the risk where exists of policy. A monopoly is for fusion centres, privately owned. That's not government. It's a hand above governance, and CB Cower's system controlling the narrative, just a criminal censorship and stopping law enforcement from allowing any other claim, like the Franklin cover-up. Orders came down from the top to stop that investigation. So all need to sound it out. You've got propaganda and you've got this 91 DIVOC going on, and afterward all is unleashed like a monopoly, and the bill that got passed to fund everything was a soaring horse technique. Not allowed. It's supposed to have things vetted. But like knee on the neck, I can't breathe. Yes, the painted picture of a boat or a vessel, the stern, it's zero to north, to south, to east, to west view. It blurs the lines between traditional conflict and a digital sabotage. And it's making defence as a constant challenge under that CB Cower system. So if you change immigration policies and you take away private right and private health information and private care, and you don't give anyone any right whatsoever, how's that just showing what the nation is? Does anybody want to invest in any system that really you can't protect any claim? Not at all. You want to be invested in a system that you can support a claim. And so where pallets of cash, all told that it was fake, that would be printed, and then all of a sudden it just disappears. How do you know what's real and what's not disclosed? Where printing press was to deliver overseas, for instance, currency, and open sourceable, it shows that happened at the end of the Second World War. So where's the receipt, or where's the recent reports? Late in 2024 to 25, there's fake, of course, monies. Like apparently it says it's a movie prop, $100 bills, large quantities circulating, causing confusion, and not necessarily pallets of real cash. But how do you know what's going on? And amongst the actual, what's printed and then what's not? Looking at the negative economic inductance that everybody's under, no one, selected that social compact. Did you? No, you didn't. And the interest that's borrowed on all that money, that's yours and my credit. That's we the people's credit that needs to be republicked. It needs to be revenued to we the people. And so you've got a negative downfall shifting, of course, to genocide. And doesn't the 8 planks of genocide look it up? Don't you see that everything is sort of like a platform, and that the 8 pieces of genocide as a platform are not actually what you could see going on? The Western world eventually has shifted its stance. And if you go back to Jimmy Carter, the president, if you think about what was going on where the Khmer Rouge was, he was called, of course, eventually the worst violator of human rights. But, yeah, that's right. It was too late. So at warp speed, it was an investment op. Yeah, that's right. Totally corrupted, though, and conflicted interest. So back in 1978, of course, where you've got a year of the killing fields, it was actually, was it actually ended then? No, the killing kept going until 79. War settles, and then the fractional reserve money mechanics, no one could say that where have you got anybody to pay anything out to? Everybody was dead. Is that what goes on where the interest on money is never created in the system? And so there's always a shortfall. It's truly, totally not rational, the money mechanics. You must understand that CB Cower has an intelligence and just PSYOPs can be done otherwise, you see. And that's an outside influence of the nation. It's a common law, you and I see, to have discernment, and how do you settle things and uphold your own right to property. And so it's deficient. And just like a gene that becomes deficient, it allows you to be like a rock that's not being turned anywhere, but it's turning everything else. It's allowed housing to be crashed, yes, and the price of a house as a commodity goes up way beyond any other commodity. That was a design to get to today, where housing is crashed and rent is bullish and the tenants are under some contract latched. And is that just to get you as a nation to be like a rabbit? Yeah. And you don't and can't, like a rock, launch any action whatsoever. If you don't bother to have your own proper title, what's your title? Is that a species of woo man? That's your title. Not as a son of a purr. That's not anything. That's just a headspace, the same as the word human. That's a headspace. That's something you've got in your head. That's not our species. And so when you use a proper title in a work, now you're going to have a proper ownership and flow of rights that comes from title. But otherwise, if you're just like a rabbit, how can you launch an action? If you don't bother to have any proper title, is that the crime of title conversion in a paper, forgery? And a rabbit and a rock isn't going to be aware, is it? What's the real you, and who has awareness over perception? It's really what happens when one set of books is who's got that knows. It's bankrolling everyone and spending, yeah. So funding is on spying on you and having foreign agents and a type of a game. Every other nation has to play the same, and it's just a deadly condition. You see pipes get cut when they did, and friendly nations, just all of a sudden their economy was gone in a flash, wasn't it? You've got an easy for CB Cower as a system that's a criminal banking cartel of a one world order to get a nation cyber attacked and bribed and crippled where the critical infrastructure is. You've got power and finance and defense systems, don't you? You've got data being stolen and disruption of a military operation and a spread of disinformation involving threats, you see. And so looking at how genocide crosses over nations, it's all painted the same under this communistic run UN that these people own and set it up for themselves, not you or I. State CB Cower actors and criminals requiring whole off the nation responses and integration across the government, military and private sectors for proactive defence and resilience. If you've got just one set of books, which you do, one large computing system and one central intelligence and one Interpol and one system, and every corpse is underneath that. You've got just one group running that. So corrupting the big six in Silicon Valley was so easy, wasn't it? Paying patsies to be in a system which would steal all your private information, put it on a ledger and merge it with a corporate ledger of an enemy. So you're going to say that isn't a risk that's gone on. Not a nation communicating inside CB Cower to exchange the nation's currency, then the nation's credit is taken away by foreign actors who are paying others privately, and then you've got all this extrajudicial types of harm and injury, cost and damage. It's an asymmetric warfare on communication exchanges, and it's a vulnerability as a nation has, you see. So how are you or I or anyone going to be helping to save the Commonwealth? That's what I'd like to know. There's 5 nations on the earth that absolutely do have common law. Otherwise, everybody else is already under a code. So you don't think that actually transactions could just all of a sudden be slowed down somewhere as as a cyber security not proper, so that suddenly you can't make reservations and all sorts of things. Don't you think that those are sorts of things that can really create major havoc? Is the cause really of that serious harm delayed, that you're not taking action? No one is apparent. Where's the Article 3 and Article 4 that's helpful, that could make legislation proper to protect the interests that exist, like private property? Otherwise, the enemy corps targeting everything in the infrastructure enables a turn on or off of any service. So it's, 91 DIVOC really was a black swan and a force multiplier and a kill box placed over people, and attacks to disrupt the level where capacities to respond is just overwhelmed. And it's done by design. That's what a black swan means. By fraudulent acts, you get we the people to be just a customer, and you've got a service provider. Oh my God, how bad is that? I'm telling you, that mimics nothing in nature whatsoever. That you've got some centralized control. It's like, God help us. It should be decentralized control and smart contract, which easy can be. So you've got to make sure that policy is really not on the wrong side of history, and not to be awake to what's going on recently. If you took the shot and it showed you colour, didn't it? A lot of people admit, yeah, they took the shot, and it does show where your colour was and is. And if you allow surveillance and you allow fraudulent court processes where you're subject to what's ordinarily not allowed, you see psyops legalised, knee on the neck stuff, can't breathe. And you've got 91 DIVOC, Holocaust, which is a bad spell if you spell that backwards in Hebrew. So what's the genocide? Is that ongoing and it's a bad spell? DBK imprinted, which gets paid for you and I to see what's reprogrammed. And looking at painted images of masks in these murals and things a long time ago, don't tell me that this wasn't planned a long time ago. Look at the Denver airport and other finishing rituals, that's in a bank in Virginia. So, and then look at the ritual after around the 12 Olympics in London. That was a long time ago, and yet you looked at people running around with masks and hospital beds and all this sort of stuff. So to devalue either people's holdings by not allowing currency in perpetuity and have a intrinsic value, which is supposed to have, you've just got a currency that is speculated in. Ha! What sort of a currency is that where it's just speculated in? It's just ridiculous. It's just robbery. No one would set a system up like that who was logical whatsoever, and even children without any thinking wouldn't have a system that's set up like that. You've got Pavlovian conditioning, and it's really a trespass, bridged boundary and forgery, and non-stop fraud on the money mechanics. So you're settling for pledging and a lack contract just to be a peon, that means a slave, and what's called as invalid and guided code where the court system is operating. You've got a trading house. It's under negative induction, and to pass the day, you've got to settle what's wrong and what's right. And how can anybody correct this? It's got to be with an Article 3 or Article 4 court. And now you're able to settle and not uphold what's wrong, but uphold what your right is. A monopoly really, there is no such thing as anything needed in a theory of conspiracy. No, you've got a monopoly. You can't have a theory of a conspiracy. That's ridiculous. That means there isn't a monopoly. When you've got a monopoly, you don't need a theory of a conspiracy whatsoever. That's anti-logic. If you went on to say that you had to have a conspiratorialness, where you don't have to have that at all, where you've got a monopoly. If you've just settled wrong in your mind where things are and upholding your right, isn't this learning about you and I having proper discernment? Of course, it's a right upheld, and if it isn't acted upon, you can't be able to be settled of anything, and you're just living, all of us in the world, under negative economic inductance. Wrong. Why not live in a golden age? Yes. And where you've got common law rights upheld and international law. And so it's a given consideration. If you don't do this, you're going to be wiped out, because who's going to want to care about that sort of a system? No, it's not. And isn't so many things going on at the moment that's got nothing to do with you or I giving a favour toward what that is? Not at all. All officials as officers of the public trust didn't do due diligence in the field, isn't trustworthy as a witness, and is compromised and can't do their job. No paperwork is of any foreign agent's registration or anti-bribery sign. That's supposed to be, and that's supposed to be in writing. That sits behind the desk you're sitting in. Otherwise, hey, is that office for rent? It shows no influence was to have got you to that office. And could you say that's so? And is that the reason you can't? And so you don't have these pieces of paper that you're supposed to have, like foreign agents registration and anti-bribery, that's signed and under oath to you and I, we the people. It shows no influence was in getting you that office. It shows the office wasn't for rent. And did you settle, though, for upholding our rights, or no? There's no equity interest that's upholding anything for our rights at all. And under common law discernment, you've got the cause of serious harm and delay, and a taking on of direction of harmony but chaos instead. You've got an enemy corps targeting over time the infrastructure enabling to turn on or off any service. Nobody's going to say that that's not a black swan, that's going on. And you're looking at the spiritual ability to be able to be empowered where you are and have a spontaneity and your own creative, spontaneous intelligence guided by common law. And you're under one roof, not two. And you've got an ability to have a functional plasticity to distinguish between truth. So looking at a mistake where it's a repeated error, it's what's good and what's evil, and the best from merely good, allowing we the people to make wise, righteous choice, more aligned with common law, will, an alliance of law movement, so you have proper international law followed. And if you don't do that, who wants to be involved with any system that's just corrupt to the hilt? Common sense and uncommon wisdom is that you've got a spiritual sense to see things, and just as your neighbours see them, and applying common law principles to life's complexity, you're really living what you speak and speaking what you live next, and you have this reframed prejudicial experience. You're having a consensual relation, yes, and to avoid false teaching and compromise. It's really you and I finding wisdom and the safety in whole brain functioning and life with nutrition, and looking into a JC quantum, which is a grand unified totality called gut. So this Father really is challenging you to have a right action, discerning the signs of your own fate in our own time, and to have gone beyond this prefix set patterns of response to have survived. And that's the definition of intelligence. So clarity really is transparency. It's a mutual assured discrimination and discriminated judgment, distinguishing moral implication and unique yet universal situation and course of action. So C.B. Cower uses the corpse around the world, 197, all playing off against each other, and isn't that its own cybersecurity, not ours, and a platform for censoring truth? It sure is, because you get just such a wrong answer often from AI. You can see it's programmed. It's got, a logarithms. Look at all the logarithms that's been used on the net, and you have a right for the transparency of this. That's our public ledger. So dusting off what's a DIVOC scamdemic. So 6 rules apply that give you discernment, and it gives you really a settlement where your balance in life is, and a perfected detachment and love. And for common law, it's your living in the gap. And eye awareness more is you having perfected detachment. It's a non-biased truth where love is for we the people. So what's new? What's playful? What's able to be shed away to make room for what's new? And what's wisdom that's left, you see? What's the fruitful total potential? If you settle any dispute and you're upholding your right, you've got perfected detachment and love and humbleness, a state where you've got a team and able capacity to settle. It means to resolve a dispute, a mental fictional matter, of course, like conclusive agreement. Yes, between parties, you get agreement. Defining agreement and being good at getting agreement. It immediately, by terms like, clears up status where you are and correcting what you need to admit to conciliation. It's really specific actions that you've got, which is you and I and everyone has a reversionary interest in. You and I can settle and gain agreement and settle agreement, and if completed, things to have agreement, of course, signifies some conflict that's resolved. The conflict is ended. And so to be able to settle, you've got to have a good strategy, and discharging the charges held adequately. It's your inner values that's shared, that you grow up all of these conflicted parts, and so you have to value the conflicted part, yes? So is that yours and my interdependence? Because that's what we have, and that's finally acting in an eye-aware state to settle and have proper discernment and bridging boundaries, which is a common law term, is where some deceptive phrase could be used in lawful common law context, where a buttle that exists is bridged, an invisible boundary, and often relating to overstepping those buttles and bridging your title and taking away common law right. And you can see that's going on to those who are innocent. So if we look, you can settle and have a claim, and it's a resolution which is of its expressness. So the charge and the claim made responsible, you see, and resolving property dispute. It's a common parlance that you should have, maintaining ethical personal limits on common lawful life and living, walking, sitting in a meditative practice more in eye awareness. You've really got an invisible buttle, these meaning invisible boundaries. And in common community under private trust, everything's existing, and you have a bridging of the boundaries that's going on at the moment, and another assumption really that a position isn't proper where judicalness is, and a bridging another's right by coercive violence is really weaponizing third-party institutions. So you're looking at current false flags done on other nations, and you're looking at always information that shows it was a false flag. Why? Well, because you're always getting things that's on the net that how could that be without prior knowledge, you see? So you have a cooperation where law enforcement is, you've got imperative false narrative otherwise, and it's from who it is, and somebody's just getting blamed. And not one objective is to deride your perception to go along with a side in a story where C.B. Cower has its own agenda. So in the past, you're talking about looking at how soaring horse technique is used to pass legislation and hoodwink America, like the Bill 666, which passes for the 91 DIVOC spending. So in the past, it's sort of, you could look at, like the Federal Reserve Act, this was a forgery and crime that was signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson back in December the 23rd, 1913. And through specific times, you'd see noted, of course, and Congress passed all of that, culminating all these years in debate, of course, but it established the US central bank system, which we've got a criminal enterprise and murdering going on to any opposition. So pre-March 9, 1933, you've got the US Congress passing without any proper quorum present, nor was there in 1913 either. You had soaring horse technique to pass these emergency banking acts and things. And it's a crucial part of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's time frame. But the New Deal would just stabilise banking during a Great Depression. That's what it was said, bull dust, allowing banks to reopen after a national bank holiday and restoring the public trust, bull dust. It was orchestrated. 90 seconds before midnight doom, here we are, and it's a deep underground military bases, and there's that selected for the elite, or is there enough for you or I? It's like, what money has been paid for all those bases, and are you really aware of all of that? How much money has been spent on the black budget? Is that something which you and I should be aware of? Should the Commonwealth nation have a priority to stop CB Cower because always a polarising condition is going on where its corporations are just used to pit one corporation against another? You're going to tell me that that's not going on when it is. You'd have to say that it's not and point out how it's not, but I doubt that you could do that. If you do not dismantle what is a monopoly, how's anything going to work after that? Certainly, you're looking at a failure up to the day, aren't you? And how much cost it is to uphold the past system. It's too much. It's over the top too much. When you have positive economic inductance over the next 210 years as selecting a republic at peace and upholding international law, now you're going to have people invest in a nation because you're lawful. So looking at the past condition of one group controlling both, you've got an east and a west and a swoop more to divide and stop all of the activeness, a proper. But how about, an Article 3 or Article 4 court where you are, it's really hard-pressed to say, of course, that a Hebrew word, which is DIVOC, 91, or spelt backwards, you've got a CB Cower pet project, genocide of the population. Cybersecurity really isn't kept safe in your private records, and vaccinated or not, yet falsely set up an emergency which is not whatsoever. It's just made up and done so that somebody could have control just to cyber secure falsity and to use information to censor and to commit a great genocide. You don't tell me that that's not what's going on with the same people that's setting this up for America now. It's no safety. It's no safety. You could personally be fished. Otherwise, it's just a subject bias. No cybersecurity you have where you've got 91 trackers every month, the same on your phone. All the time, the same trackers on the phone. Why is that? Yet what happens? You're shadow banned, and you, as others, you don't really have an audience. It's not, the audience isn't served because nobody is made responsible because, you've got a monopoly, shadow banning a lot of information. So looking at cybersecurity and the taking of your social security number, and that's just got charged by other actors under contract and private employers like the DMV, which is privately owned code. It's not laws like the USPS Postal Service. It's privately owned, and it's not laws for us. And the cybersecurity no verifiedness. So if cybersecurity gets zeroed out, what right do you or I or anybody has to challenge a private party where you've got a monopolised corpse? You've got what safety there, where a fusion centre is wrongful espionage to survey, and when is there any charges that exist? It's under contract that cybersecurity isn't for you or I, and it's listed you as an infant decedent and just a peon of the court, a ward of the court, and not, of course, under Article 3 or 4, that you're appearing more as verifying and you're a living witness. So if you've just gone on and didn't give permission at all, and there was a breach and has been ongoing in cybersecurity, isn't this where it's been asked that your social security hasn't been charged? It's a big Stargate, of course, used for cybersecurity, de jure government, and all inner of the criminal banking cartel of one world under Abelgate, which means the Vatican, the Great Pope, is your boss. That's the head of the company of Jesus and the society of Jesus, and this is your boss. So the whole world looks at Jesuit infiltration, where the world is, and C.B. Cower and the nation security posts, and where foreign agents are and controlled, where secret military intel special ops run positions. Then you've got Abilene, which is a paradox. And Abilene paradox is that, hey, you and I, we never made any of these rules. We don't agree with any of them. And guess what? We've got these real problems, but we have no means to resolve it. But like what I'm saying, that's Article 3 and Article 4. You've got to look into this. It's otherwise you've got an Abilene condition, and how come where cybersecurity is going to be put right where that Christian university is, Abilene University, it's educational administration supervision, and Abilene paradox. Why don't you look up the Abilene paradox? It's probably good for you to know it, and what. Where rules have been made, but you and I, we never made those rules, and we have no means probable where people are in their own feeling to change those rules, which you do, but it's just not given to you. Like I'm just saying, hey, use an Article 3 or Article 4 court, and otherwise people just have to have accepted where there was a loss. So I reckon that got a few things that we talked about here. Cybersecurity, it's a big thing. Should those people who own privately these big fusion centres, they're occupying more water than even like a small state, just about a nation, and take so much energy as well. So shouldn't that be something that should be looked into? Because it's definite that forgeries existed, and all of this has caused us to be more in a harmful condition where we are. Anyway, I hope you're having a really great day as you've been listening to this, and look forward to us catching up to each other in another show. Love you guys.